Hey folks, this is Chris, and I am back with another comic book subscription box, one of those blind boxes you can subscribe to. This one is a little different. In the past, I reviewed Comic Bento. They give you about 4 graphic novels a month. I didn't care for the selection. Let's see, then came Comic Block. I would say it was sort of half and half as far as the value went. In terms of like the comics content, I should say, this was a little cheaper, so I preferred this to Comic Bento, but I was still not extremely happy with the books that I got. I would rather pick the books that I'm getting myself instead of it being a blind box. But I'm going to go into this new one with an open mind. They have an idea that I like. They are called Comic Beast, and they're obviously a pretty new startup company because they're hand addressing these labels. It's obviously a pretty small operation, but what I like about it is it was only about $15 for 20 comics, pretty good value. Then what they have you do is you actually fill out a checkbox of the superheroes or mainstream characters that you like, and any other details you might want to throw their way in a little like sort of extra box at the bottom, and they'll put together a blind box full of goodies for you. So I like that it's at least aiming for more something that you will probably like, and the price for the box itself is a good value. However, they do stick you with a high shipping costs. The others basically charge about $5 flat shipping. This is $13.60. So when you add it to that 15, you come back to 28, which is right around the same cost as, your Comic Block and your Comic Bento. I would recommend to these guys to look into media mail rates, because comics count as media a lot cheaper. It's slower, but so what? It's a lot cheaper. And I think that initially, until you can compete on volume, you want to lower any cost you can. Also, one thing I worry about is if this model is successful, there's nothing proprietary about it that I can discern. That means if this works, yes, they were first to the gate with sort of telling you or telling them what kind of comics you want, but what's to stop any comic book store out there with tons of inventory from doing the same thing, creating a blind subscription box? I don't know. I don't see anything that would prevent them. But let's see what you get. So for $28, okay. And inside is their own box. They got a little stamp here. It's a little hard to make out, but you can see that these are basically things like X-Men and Batman and a big question mark. What am I going to get? I don't know. And it says, contains 20 comic books. There's their website. Let me move this out of the way, and we'll see what's inside. All right. Okay, well, so far so good with the packing. This is nice and tight. This is wrapped in paper, and they got a little buffer there. All right, not bad. Hold on, some cards fell out. What is this? All right, a Wonder Woman sticker. Oh, no, a temporary tattoo. Well, good timing. The Wonder Woman movie's coming out. I mean, I don't think I'm going to wear this, but actually I've got a niece who might enjoy it, so that's a decent freebie. All right. Wow. Well, I do like this. This reminds me, when I was a kid, you could get 3-packs, 4-packs, and even 100 packs of random comics, and it kind of looked a little like this. So let's see what we got here. Justice League, Index. Okay, so let's see. This is interesting, like this price here. It just says $2 Canada. That's just... It doesn't have the DC logo up here. This is something like the... I don't know what I might be. Maybe International Comics Guide? it obviously is just some sort of a reference material book. Weird, but that might pique my nostalgic curiosity. All right, we've got a Thor from, I would say this is the mid-'80s because I recognize that artwork as Ron Frenz, and I know that he did the artwork right around this time. I actually think that this is slightly before when I started reading most Thor stuff, even though I've gone into back issues and I've gotten, like, you know, the great runs by guys like Walt Simonson. I don't think I've read this, so that's fun. Daredevil makes a crossover appearance. I don't know why he'd be fighting Hogan the Grim, but I kind of want to find out. That's good. Vision and Scarlet Witch. Never read this miniseries, but issue 7 is sort of a weird place to start. I'm sure that this is a little bit of fun. It's a little too bad to jump in right in the middle with a limited series. I understand jumping in an ongoing series, you can sort of jump in any time, but in a limited series, this might not make much sense. Still, it's pretty hilarious to see that Vision's big enemy is Toad from the X-Men, who's always been a pretty derpy loser supervillain. This is potential fodder for my show. All right, we got Wonder Woman during the George Perez era. This was mid-'80s. I like this era. I did not have these comics, but my sister did. I was a comic book reader. I did not read Wonder Woman, but she did, and sometimes she would let me read an issue or two. So I've actually only sort of perused these, skimmed through them, but okay, if they've got a little ad for Watchmen, that would mean that this is probably 86. This is probably 1986. Also 75 cents. That's very likely 1986. Could be 87. Could be 87. Cool. All right, an issue of the adjective-less Spider-Man book. This would probably be the 90s. I don't remember it, but I must have read this as a kid. This was definitely a book that I read at the time. I think that artwork has to be Jay Lee. He sort of evolved over the years, but all right, whatever. It's got Iron Fist in it. I like that. I kind of like Iron Fist and Spider-Man, so I must have put them down as characters that I like. Ha! West Coast Avengers. Early West Coast Avengers was a book that I really liked. They didn't have good villains to fight, but it was fun. It was close to classic Avengers stuff. I like this era, and I haven't read this one. More West Coast Avengers. All right. It was kind of going downhill right around here, but whatever. Issue 38. I'll have fun reading that. I have not read that. This I definitely read as a kid. Marvel Comics Presents. Yeah, okay, so we've got She-Hulk, Black Panther, Cyclops, and The Thing are the 4 stories. That's what Marvel Comics Presents was. 4 short stories, 4 8-page stories, I think. It was okay. It all depended on the talent that they had behind it, but this cover's by John Byrne, so there's a chance that he did one of the stories in here. I probably read this when I was a kid. I don't remember it all, but I definitely remember there was a crossover trying to build up Eclipso as a big villain. He was just this lame-o who had like a gem over his eye that could shoot laser blasts, but they tried to make him a big bad guy, and I remember that because during the crossover, at least it must have been the first issue, it had like sort of a toy plastic purple gem glued onto the cover, which kind of looked cool, but of course comics come stacked when they're shipped, so every issue had like an indentation on the back. On the back there was a huge indentation from those stupid little fake gems. Anyway, oh! This looks funny. Alright, Hawkeye against the Horde of the Orb. Yeah, I'm sure that's a really big challenge. Let's see, saying, now you're in for it, Bozo. He's making a pun. How hilarious. But wait. Plus, Star Fox goes shopping. He goes shopping. Great. Okay, this one's up my alley. Yeah, I really needed a short story of Star Fox going shopping. I've never read this issue of Avengers, so this would have been probably around 1987, I bet, because of Spider-Man in the black costume, somewhere in that region anyway. Yeah, that'll be fun. Let's see. This one I may have read. This might be around the early 80s when I started reading. You know, Doctor Strange is a comic that's had a few good stories by guys like Steve Ditko, and Brian K. Vaughan did a good four-issue story, but mostly I'm not too in love with the 90s version. I don't think that the art is anything special, and oh, this is an Infinity Gauntlet crossover. He was not tremendously involved in that, but I have not read this, so that's cool. Alright, I'm already going to say that for me, this actually is a good value. These are not necessarily comics I would have gone out of my way to buy for $28. But as a one-time thing, I like it. And here's the thing. With, Comic Block and with Comic Bento, when you sign up, they sign you up on a subscription, and it's up to you to cancel it. But with Comic Beast, you can just buy a single box. You don't have to subscribe. I like that. Don't make it hard for me to cancel. I just wanted one box. And so as a novelty, as a one-time thing, I'm amused. I love What If. I have not read this issue of What If. I love alternate stories where the writers can basically do whatever the hell they want. It's interesting here. Like there's a sticker on mine that says $5 and then 2017, which I don't know. Does that mean a store put this out for $5 at one point? Whatever. Justice League Europe with Crimson Fox. I think this might have been a version of Dr. Light. I don't really remember her too well. Wonder Woman and Power Girl. Yeah. Not a huge fan of any of these creators, but could be fun. Definitely read this, West Coast Avengers. When John Byrne took over, I read that whole era. He revamped the Vision, brought him back to less emotional, brought him back and made him just very robotic, and kind of introduced a little bit of a convoluted origin with a lot of retcons that involved characters like the original Human Torch, whatever. Nice homage cover. That's based on a famous cover that I think John Buscema, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he did back in Avengers. Definitely read this issue of Avengers. This is probably super late 80s, maybe 89. It's alright. Oh, another issue of Vision and Scarlet Witch, but this is issue 4. Earlier it was issue 7. Okay. Well, fun. So weird though, huh? A robot and a mutant have a baby. Pretty weird comics. Yep. I remember this. I definitely read this. This might have been just before Infinity Gauntlet. It's hard to remember, but this is Nebula. This is the comic book version of Nebula, who Karen Gillan plays in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Looks kind of different, but has the blue skin at least. But she also has hair. She was more of just a space pirate, and she claimed to be the granddaughter of Thanos, but she may have always been lying. Last comic. I must have read this one back in the day too. I don't remember it. Apparently this cover is nothing more than a woman's butt, and everybody is just stunned at how toned it is. Like, look, this is basically just a butt, and Spider-Man is just in awe. All right, so 3 or 4 of these I really don't care about, and like another 3 maybe I already owned as a kid, but a lot of these I haven't read. Okay, so one thing that becomes obvious going through this, Comic Beast specializes in Marvel and DC. It looks like nothing else, because I don't see any other publishers mixed in here. But they let me sort of note, I noted, I think, that I like the 80s, so I think that that's why they sort of aimed for a lot of comics from that era. Yeah, I might not buy this again for the $28, but one time I think it's a pretty good deal. It would be a much better deal if I was paying just the $15 for the box and I wasn't hit with the shipping cost there. What was that? That was $13.60. That's pretty astronomical for shipping something like this. I mean, I understand that their business model is that they're new and that they're small, but they need to figure out how to lower that. That's just that's going to kill them. I don't know. $28 more than once? No. $15 for this? Maybe. But yeah, I guess I finally found a subscription box that I don't detest. This one's not bad. I wish I could have included stuff like, you know, oh, I like Ninja Turtles, or I like The Tick, etc. I like independent comics. You know, I really do. I love independent comics. If I could go back into the 60s or the 50s, that would be great. I would love to say I would like stuff by Gold Key. I'd like Gold Key superheroes. They don't offer that now. Maybe if they take off, they will. I have no idea. I think that they should. I think that they should expand their offerings. But it's a cool idea. It's a cool idea to just say, I like these heroes. Give me one box full of them. All right, folks. Hope that was helpful. See you in the future.